Chapter 2. Marie Louise before marriage. The House of Austria, which had dominated the world and held up the course of the sun in its states, was in 1809 reduced to a lamentable indigence. Deprived of its army revenues and most of its possessions, some happy chance alone could reinstate this empire in its former position. Austria was apparently at the point of death, and the oligarchs who ruled her and used her as a mask were concerned lest she should expire. The House of Habsburg-Lorraine is one of the most remarkable in Europe and claims a brief consideration. After having occupied the imperial throne for 3 centuries, the House of Habsburg became extinct with the Emperor Charles VI in 1720 by virtue of the monarchical arrangement. It claimed to have perpetuated itself through the marriage of Maria Theresa, heiress of the Habsburgs, with Francis, Duke of Lorraine and Bar. In 1735, by the Peace of Vienna, the Duke of Lorraine restored to France estates over which his race had ruled since 1038. In exchange, he received the Grand Duchy of Tuscany, to which neither Austria nor Lorraine had a shadow of right, but which would shortly be vacant owing to the imminent demise of Jean Gaston de Medici, last of his race. Francis of Lorraine was married in 1736, became Grand Duke of Tuscany in 1737, and was elected and crowned Emperor of Germany in 1745. He had an imposing family by Maria Theresa, consisting of 5 sons and 11 daughters. His son Leopold II also had 16 children by Marie Louise of Spain, and his eldest son Francis, who succeeded in 1792 as Francis II, had 10 by his second wife, Maria Theresa, daughter of Ferdinand I of Naples and Sicily. Blemishes abounded on the side of the Sicilian Bourbons, and this family, which spread the germs of tuberculosis throughout all the royal races allied to it, did not spare the House of Austria. The latter, in addition, bore the unmistakable signs of degeneration, multiplied and stereotyped by a succession of inbreeding, until the hereditary type, persisting through the centuries, became the hallmark of the race. What, then, were its intellectual characteristics? It has been said that the physical likeness was accompanied by an intellectual affinity of tastes, interests, and ambitions that lasted for centuries. The cause of this banal influence may perhaps be sought in the inflexible system to which all the princes and princesses of this house were subjected from their birth. Nor was this all. Their education was inseparably bound up with a religious discipline that crushed and suppressed all freedom of thought, along with the polyglot instruction that tended to obscure ideas by an infinite multiplication of forms of expression. For the more varied the words into which thought is translated, the less clear does the thought become. This religious compulsion multiplied observances and devotions without appeals to conscience, nor did it inculcate any moral obligation or sense of human responsibility in those princes. The exercise of individual thought was stunted, and all activity absorbed in the performance of minute daily duties. This, with absolute subordination to the imperial order, formed the basis of the family government. So long as they yielded strict submission, the archdukes received titles and great possessions. They might command armies if they had the requisite genius. But here again, they owed obedience to the Allied Council, which represented the emperor, and if they sought to emancipate themselves, they were crushed without regard to their position or reputation. The Austrian court while the most sumptuous was also the simplest in Europe. When it had a mind to make a display, its pomp equaled the magnificence of an oriental potentate. 4 supreme departments, each with a directive administration under the immediate orders of the respective grand dignitaries, controlled thousands of officials. That of the premier, grand master of the court, e.g., comprised the officers of the Grand Master of the kitchen, Grand Master of the plate, Grand Steward of the household, Director General of Court Buildings, Prefect of the Library, Superintendent of the Band, Grand Master of Ceremonies. It controlled the German, Hungarian, and Italian guards and nobles, as well as the Traven guards and the palace guard, of whom the premier Grand Master was colonel. It was responsible for the court chapel, also for the medical and financial departments, and for the superintendents of the furniture, guards, menagerie, and counting house. In like manner, the Grand Chamberlain, Grand Marshal, and Grand Equerry each controlled the corresponding number of appointments. This court was sumptuously apparelled. The uniforms were of the utmost magnificence, and the national costumes were adorned with diamonds and precious stones. The style of the garments, the splendor of the materials, the choice furs, tall headdresses, and brilliant arms rivaled the magnificence of adjacent Turkey. Along with this, nothing could be simpler, more ordinary, more bourgeois than the habitual daily life of the sovereign and the princes of his house. When he went out, the emperor took neither suite, nor guards, nor escort, and his relaxation in an existence which was regulated to the minute consisted in the practice of some handicrafts, such as making sealing wax and dispatching official letters, or in a visit at fixed hours to some obscure or impecunious mistress. The princesses of the blood were brought up under the direction of a governess or Aja, who was charged with the superintendence of their household, the arrangement of their occupations, and the supervision of their tasks and instruction in the languages spoken within and without the monarchy. They led a secluded and cloistered existence, and only females were kept in their bird cages and dog kennels. Their reading was censored, as well as their correspondence. Music alone was permissible and formed their main diversion.